is coming.
All these voices. All these voices.
They're mine. They're not yours. You had no right to them when you were alive, and you have no right to them when you're dead. That's what it sounded like. Good, you know who I am. And you know I'm not playing. You're going to let those women go. In Jesus' name, you're going to let those women go.
Is there a demon here watching us right now? Watching us right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me, as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody's holiday weekend? How you guys doing?
Tonight's show is going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about a subject that we have touched on in the past on Staring, but tonight we have a pretty interesting article, and it's based on a documentary that was done about a little boy in Scotland who can remember his past lives and explains it to his family. And when they check it out and they actually go to the place, they find out that a lot of what he's saying is real, that it actually is there. So I guess without further ado, we're going to get to the article, and then I'll be back on the other side to give you my thoughts on it. Tonight's article comes from the Mirror, and the headline is "Toddler Could Perfectly Describe Past Life on Scottish Island, but had never been there." Underneath the headline, it says, "From the age of 2, Cameron McCauley started talking about life on the Isle of Barra in the Outer Hebrides, despite neither he nor any of his family ever having gone to the remote place." It's written by Patrick Daly, and it was published December 17th, 2022. The stories Cameron tells about his life sound like any a young boy might tell about his upbringing. But yet there is an eerie difference. He nor his family had ever been to the place he was describing. Cameron McCauley was just 2 when he had started speaking of another life that he had enjoyed on the remote Scottish island of Barra. A world away from the terrace street in Glasgow where he resided with his mother and older brother, the boy described living in a white bungalow with a view of the beach. He used to tell his mum, Norma, "I'm a Barra boy." McCauley's lived 220 miles from Barra, which is situated off the west coast of Scotland in the Outer Hebrides and home to just 1,000 people. The journey from Glasgow to the island of Barra is 8 hours by car and ferry, or a 1-hour flight. Despite its remoteness, Cameron would talk freely about playing with his black and white dog on the island's sandy beach. He spoke about looking on as his siblings ran around, while he watched out the window from his family's Barra house. He would tell his mother that he fell through a hole and into his new life with her. "I lived in a white house with my mom and dad, and my 3 brothers and sisters." Cameron is recorded as saying during a documentary, "Extraordinary People, the boy who lived before." "My favorite place in Barra was the beach, and I'd take my dog with me. I'd play with him, and my brothers and sisters would also play. The planes used to land on the beach." Norma McCauley, speaking to the same Channel 5 program in 2006, said, "At first I just thought he's making things up. But then I thought, how did he know the name Barra? Why is it Barra, where none of us have been or have any connection with?" Cameron's stories became more detailed as time went on, recalling how his dad, who he named as Shane Robertson, had died in a car crash. He became so embroiled in his so-called past life that he would cry at nursery, asking for his Barra mum to pick him up instead of Norma. With the big tears running down his face, he would keep saying, "I have to go to Barra. My family are missing me," Norma said. "How do you deal with that? What do you do? What do you say to him?" Distressed by her then 5-year-old son's behavior, the single mom met a psychologist and child behavioral expert to see whether they might be able to explain what was happening. But unconvinced by their suggestions, Cameron could have been told about life on Barra by someone else, or that it was an imaginary story gone too far. She turned to Dr. Jim Tucker. The child psychiatrist from the University of Virginia School of Medicine had become fascinated by the tales of alleged reincarnation regaled by tiny children. Dr. Tucker arranged to fly from the States to Scotland to meet Cameron, and then organized, along with Norma, to take him to Barra. Upon the Macaulay planes touched down in Barra, which landed on a sandy beach like in Cameron's recollections, the youngster told his mum, "I told you it was all true. I feel happy to be back." Remarkably, after meeting up with a local historian on the island, Dr. Tucker and the Macaulays were able to track down a white bungalow on the beach, where a Robertson family were known to live in the 1960s and 70s. Upon visiting the property, the documentary shows Cameron becoming subdued and upset. He indicated that he remembered sitting in the single-story home with the open fire blazing. On the land belonging to the bungalow was a gate to the beach and rock pools below, just as he had described when back in Glasgow. Not wanting to leave the trail there, Norma got in contact with a genealogist called Ruth Borum, who uncovered that a Robertson family who hailed from Glasgow had owned the rustic white house in Barra for about 20 years. The family were able to meet Gilly Robertson, a member of the family, who showed Cameron a picture of her family's past holidays on the island. Amazingly, she confirmed that there was often a black and white sheepdog on the land, although it belonged to the neighbors. But Gilly had no recollection of a man named Shane or a member of the family who had died in a car crash. Even though not all of Cameron's memories matched with reality, Dr. Tucker said Cameron might still have memories of a previous life. He certainly responded to the house in a way that made it seem that this was a special place for him, Dr. Tucker told the documentary. He may have had some memories and emotions that somehow existed on this island, beforehand in another life, and then somehow carried over to him. And that is the end of this article. Okay, that was a very interesting article. And there's a couple points that I want to talk about on this article. One, it's kind of amazing that a lot of what that little boy said turned out to be true. When they actually went to the island, they found a white house just like he said there was. And the family member of the Robertson family said that there was a black and white sheepdog that used to run around and play there on their property. So it's kind of cool that a lot of that stuff kind of lines up. I would say that the little boy's not lying. That would be my judgment if I had to make a judgment on it. Because how would he get those details correct? How would he know that there's a white house in that exact location? How would he know that there was a black and white dog that ran around and played? It's pretty amazing stuff. Now, there were a few details that he got wrong, and I want to address that. Because some people will say that that means that he's lying, full of crap, can't be real because he missed something. He got this wrong. Well, to that I would say we have to kind of dive into what reincarnation could be. Now, if you look to science, in science, the top astrophysicists in the world right now have something called the multiverse theory. Now, we talked about that on Staring before. I'm sure you've heard about that. It's in the Marvel movies. Essentially, what the multiverse theory is, I'll recap it really, really quickly. I've done this before, so I'm not going to go into detail. Bunch of different universes, infinite number. All exactly the same, except for one little thing is different or a couple little things are different. That's it. Every time you make a decision, you create a new universe. So maybe what reincarnation is when we die, our energy, our soul, slips to the next multiverse, the next universe in line in the multiverse. Now, that is a theory that I can't take credit for because I was just recently reading an article from some top scientists in the field who are saying exactly that they think that that might be what happens when we die, is our energy, our soul, our consciousness, whatever you want to call it, goes to another universe in the multiverse. So if that is the case, that would explain what reincarnation is. So when you remember a past life, maybe you're remembering a life that you led in another universe. And the reason why maybe there's a few things that are different for this boy in what he remembers his life being and what his life was in this universe, maybe the reason there's a little bit of difference there is simply that he's in another universe. That when he died, his soul went to another universe. And in that multiverse, maybe everything's exactly the same, except for he didn't have a dad named Shane who died in a car accident. Maybe his dad's name was Fred in this universe, and he didn't die at all. He lived till the ripe old age of 98 or something, right? That could explain why he's missed a few things. I'm not saying it's definitely the answer, but it's possibly the answer. We have to realize that there has to be some sort of reason here. We can't simply discount it because there's too many things that he got right that he never should have gotten right. He had no way of knowing that there was a White House on the beach there. He had no way of knowing that the window he used to sit in looked out onto the beach where he could watch his brother and sister play. He had no way of knowing that there was a black and white sheepdog that would run around and play with the kids on the beach. Now, he said it was his dog. The lady that they talked to said it was a neighbor's dog. But maybe that's another one of those details that in this universe is different than it was in the universe he came from. Maybe it was his dog in his universe, and in this universe, the dog belonged to the neighbors. But he had no way of knowing that. He had no way of knowing how the fence was constructed. There's so many details that he got exactly right for a place that he's never been, that is not a very popular place. I mean, it's a tiny little place with like 1,000 people in it. So it's not like it's some big city that he's seen on TV over and over and over again, that he can say, yeah, I'm going to make up this story because I just saw this TV show that had this in it, and I'm going to concoct this story using what I saw on the TV. He didn't do that because this place is a little tiny place that's not on TV. So there's something to this story. There has to be a reason that he knew what he knew. And you can't just say it's not real. You can't just say that he's lying. He's not lying. He told the truth. It was proven that we know the stuff is there that he said was there. So the question is, why and how? That's what we have to answer. Now, the multiverse theory is one potential theory to that. Everybody knows what reincarnation is. I mean, it's not something that's unheard of. Depending on your religion, you may believe in it, you may not believe in it. But I would say that we don't know for sure either way. Now, I'm a Christian, and I believe what the Bible says. The Bible says that when you die, your soul either goes to heaven or hell. So I believe that. But is it immediate? Does it immediately go to heaven or hell? Or is there some space of time in between that? How do we reconcile what the Bible says with the realities that we know to be true? Okay, we know that this little boy knew things he had no way of knowing. That he described a life that he led before, and the details matched. We know that ghosts exist. Because I've seen them. Okay? So there are things that tell you that there has to be something else to the story that we're not getting here. There's some details that were left out. Now, the Bible is not the end all of all information in the world. Okay, a lot of Christians will say that it is, but it's not. The Bible does not contain every bit of knowledge on every single subject ever. Okay, it's good to consult the Bible. It's good to read your Bible and to believe what's in it because that's God's word. But it is not a biblical encyclopedia. Okay, it doesn't give us every bit of information. Essentially, what the Bible is God's love story to man. Okay, God loved us so much that he died on the cross for us so that we wouldn't have to burn in hell. It's the story of God's love for mankind. That's what the Bible is. Now, there are things that we can gather from the Bible, information that is very, very helpful in figuring these kind of things out. But it does not contain every bit of information ever. So, that being said, when we die, what happens to our body? It either goes in the ground or it goes in the fire, okay? Or it just decays. So the body stays here. What happens to the soul? Well, the Bible says that your soul goes to heaven or hell. Well, what happens to your spirit? Because that's what we are. We're a trinity. We're body, soul, and spirit. Now, the spirit biblically acts sort of as a transport. Okay? It kind of carries the soul to either heaven or hell. But the Bible isn't specific. It doesn't tell us whether the spirit stays once it has delivered our soul or if it comes back or what happens to it after that. So could it be possible that an explanation for ghost would be that the spirit takes the soul to heaven or hell and then comes back to earth and roams around? There is a little bit of precedent for that. When we look at Genesis 6 and we look at the story of the giants, the Nephilim, when the giants died, they became what we know today as demons. Okay? They are spirits without a body that are roaming the earth. And they are trying to find another body. And they hate mankind with a passion. So that's why demons do the horrible things that demons do. So there is precedent of spirits remaining on earth. So is it possible that our spirit comes back to earth or remains here once we die? Or is the case that the ghosts that we communicate with here on earth, could it be that they are all demons? They're all spirits of the Nephilim and other horrible things that are left here on earth. And it's not actually people at all. Don't know. I would say that if they are all demons, then they're pretty crappy demons, some of them, because there's been some that we've dealt with that have never tried to hurt anybody. They never try to mess with you. They never hurt you. They never do anything wrong at all. There's some that actually just need help crossing over. So I would say that I don't believe that every spirit here is a demon. But that is definitely one theory that's been put out there. So with reincarnation, how do we know for sure what happens to the spirit after the soul is delivered to heaven or hell? And how do we know for sure when the soul is delivered to heaven or hell? Could it be that it just eventually gets there and it hangs out here on earth first, or it moves to another universe and you live another life? Maybe you have to live over and over and over again these lives until you get it right. That there's lessons you need to learn. And there's things that you need to do before you can earn your way into heaven or hell. Now, that's definitely not a biblical thing, but that's a theory that's out there as well. Because we don't earn heaven. Heaven is a gift from God. We get to heaven by believing that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and that he died on the cross for our sins so that we could be found blameless and righteous and get to heaven. We are saved by grace, not by works. Okay? So you don't earn your way to heaven biblically. You do kind of earn your way to hell, though. In a way. I mean, we're all headed there from original sin. But you sin throughout your life. So you are earning your way to hell. And unless you accept that gift of salvation, then that's where you're headed, biblically. Reincarnation is not a biblical concept, but it is a religious concept from over in India. And probably other cultures believe it as well. So if scientists are right, if reincarnation is a thing, could that explain why this little boy was able to see and to know things that he shouldn't have seen or known? He should have no way of describing the house, the beach, the dog, any of that stuff. But yet he did. There's a lot of modern day accounts of people who claim to have led past lives. There's a thing called past life regression that they do under hypnosis that supposedly can walk you through some of your past lives. It's a very interesting concept. Is it real? I have no idea. To be honest with you, I don't know. When you get into hypnosis, you're kind of monkeying around with someone's brain. You know, you're screwing around in the subconscious. And you have no way of knowing if what's coming out of there is real or if it's made up. Because the subconscious is also where dreams come from. So you have no way of knowing if what the person is saying under hypnosis is true, if he actually lived that, if they actually experienced that, or if it's some kind of dream that is in their subconscious. A dream, basically, according to what the theories are about what dreams are, is your subconscious trying to work out some kind of problem that your conscious mind is having. So it could be some kind of trauma that you're going through in your life, a problem that you can't figure out a solution to, a question that you're struggling with. If you have to make a big decision on something and you're kind of struggling, you don't know which way to go with it, that's all the stuff that your subconscious does. Okay, it works all that mess out, and it uses dreams to do it a lot of times. And dreams are very rarely literal. Usually dreams are more figurative. They're more of a parable, so to speak, if we want to talk biblically, of what's going on. So you might dream that you're in a classroom and you don't have your homework, and you have to stand up and give the assignment to the class, and you haven't done the work, so you don't have any idea what the hell you're talking about. So you're just up there kind of blah, 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 and then all of a sudden you're in your underwear, right? That might be a dream you have. Some people have said that before. They've had dreams like that. If that's the case, that's your subconscious trying to work out something else. And that is a representation of what that problem is, but it's not the actual literal problem. You're not actually in that situation, but it's just a representation of it that your subconscious mind is using to figure out a problem, if that makes sense. So getting back to the past life regression thing, we don't know for sure whether any of that is real or if it's BS, because you can't trust the subconscious mind. That's the problem with a lot of these things that are brought up under hypnosis. When people say that they've been abused years and years and years later, they went their whole life, they had no memory of whatever abuse they claim happened, right? But all of a sudden under hypnosis, it comes out that they were abused, that their mother or their father abused them in horrible ways or something, right? You've seen a lot of cases like that in the courts and in the news. How do we know that that's real? How do we know that what they're quote unquote remembering actually even happened? How do we know that that is not just some BS story that their subconscious mind is making up? Similar to a dream. Maybe their parents gave them a rough time growing up. Maybe they were hard on them. You know, they expected too much out of them and they rode their butt too much. And so there was a fear of disappointment there. There was a fear of letting their parents down. And so in their subconscious mind, that translates to working that problem out, trying to figure it out. It translates to abuse. It translates to horrible things happening, like a nightmare, right? But it's not real. So how do we know that some of the cases where people have come out and said that they've been abused, how do we know that that's the truth? How do we know that it's not just the subconscious mind working stuff out? It really has nothing to do with what we're talking about, other than it's the subconscious mind, but it's a question that I have that's interesting to me, is people have been convicted and gone to prison over this kind of testimony. And how do we know that it's even real? There's no way to quantify or to scientifically prove that what they're saying is actually true, especially if the person they're saying abused them is denying it like crazy. Okay? So past life regression could be real, could not be real. We don't know. We can't trust the subconscious mind. So we have no other measurable proof other than people's stories. Okay? People talking about places they've been, things that they've experienced, things that they've seen, that they should have no business knowing. And that when you actually go to the place and check it out, it's exactly how they described. I've seen cases of this where people describe being a soldier, like in a Civil War, and that they buried something in a particular location. And then they go to the location and dig it up, and it's there. I've seen one story where they were talking about a person was a Roman soldier, and that they had died in a certain place over in Europe, a certain town in a battle. And they described exactly how they died and where they died, and that their body fell and was never found. And when they actually went there and checked, there was a body there that was under the ground where they said it was. I've seen stuff like that on Discovery Channel and Science Channel and History Channel, where they've had documentaries on this. So there is something to the idea of reincarnation. Is it exactly how religion says it is? Probably not. Most things aren't. Most likely we have a tiny bit of it right and the majority of it wrong. That's usually the way things work. But I don't know. To be completely honest with you, I don't know whether it's a thing or not. I don't know if it's real. But I would say there's a lot of evidence for it. That if it's not real, there's something that exists. Some phenomena that exist that mimics reincarnation. That makes us think that reincarnation is real. The idea of the soul or the energy or the consciousness or whatever slipping into another universe in the multiverse is a very interesting concept for me. Because that would explain a lot of things. That would explain why most details are right and there's always a few that are wrong. No case is 100%. At least not that I've seen. I've never seen anybody that gets every single little detail correct. They get the majority of them correct, but there's always one or two that they don't find. And to me, that would explain that. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of it. Do you think that reincarnation is real? Do you think that it's a thing? If you do, and you are Christian, as I am, how do you think it applies? What do you think reincarnation means biblically? How does it stack up next to what the Bible tells us? How can it be explained that it is a real thing? If the Bible says that when you die, your soul goes to heaven or hell. As far as I know, we don't know when. That's the only thing that I'm hanging on to here, is we don't know when the soul goes to heaven or hell. Is it immediate? Or is there a space of time in between? If there wasn't a space of time in between, how do we cross people over? Because I've done it myself. When we've worked cases and we've run into, I got one on the YouTube channel right now. It's an episode of Tales in Middletown, Virginia, where we rescued a mother and daughter spirit from the guy who murdered them in life, who was keeping them hostage in the afterlife and abusing them over and over and over again. And we actually rescued the mother and daughter spirit from the guy, and we crossed them over. So how is that possible if their spirits aren't still here? Why would a demon ask to be crossed over? Why would a demon ask for help like that? And if it was a demon, how could we cross it over? Because a demon doesn't have a soul. A demon is just a spirit. Because remember, a demon is the disembodied spirit of a giant, of a Nephilim. So they have a body, they have a spirit, they don't have a soul. So there's no way to cross a demon over. You can't send a demon to heaven. It's not going to work. Contrary to popular belief, you can't even send a demon to hell because they don't have a soul. So how are they going to go to heaven or hell? They're just floating around here on earth. This is their domain. So how could we cross over a spirit if they weren't human spirits? Because that's the only thing that has a soul, guys. The only thing. So how is it possible? I think that one day we'll have answers for these things when we're gone. When we're dead and we're either in heaven or hell, we'll know. But here on earth, unfortunately, there's bits and pieces of the puzzle that we don't have access to. We just simply don't have that information. The Bible doesn't tell us. Because like I said, the Bible is not the end all of all information. It's a love letter to man. And unfortunately, we just don't have the answer to that. But it is awful fun to speculate about and to try to figure out. So let me know down in the comment section what you think about it when this hits YouTube. If you don't believe reincarnation exists at all, okay, if you're one of those people that say, absolutely not, doesn't exist, it's absolute BS. Okay, I hear you. I'm not arguing with you, okay? But explain this to me. If reincarnation doesn't exist, how did this little boy know the details that he knew? How did he know about the house? What color it was? How did he know the last name of the family that lived there? How did he know there was a black and white dog that played on the beach with the kids? How did he know that the window that he claimed to sit and looked out onto the beach and that you could watch the kids play there? How did he know those things? How could he describe the color of the sand? How could he describe these things if he had never been there? Make it make sense. If reincarnation doesn't exist, how's that possible? I don't have an answer for it. There has to be something to it. You can't simply say that he's lying, because he's not. It's proven true. So how? If it's not reincarnation, what is it? I'll look in the comments and see if anybody leaves anything there for me. Because I honestly would like an answer if it's not reincarnation. Now, I don't think that reincarnation being a thing necessarily disproves anything in the Bible. Because like I said, the Bible doesn't go into a lot of detail about it. So how do we know that reincarnation isn't a thing? We don't. All we know is that the Bible tells us that, as I said before, the soul goes to heaven or hell. But we don't know when. We don't know if the spirit stays. We don't know if the spirit comes back. We don't know if what continues on is the soul and the spirit together. And if they go to heaven or hell at the end of their journey, whenever you're done living your lives, we don't have all that information. Now, I can tell you that the Bible doesn't talk about any of that. That reincarnation is not in the Bible as far as it being a real thing. That the Bible doesn't say that we have to live over and over and over again or anything like that. So I'm not saying it's true. I'm just asking the question. How's it possible? How did this little boy do that? And if it was just this little boy, I would say maybe it's fake. Maybe, somebody told him this information just to get on TV. But there's dozens and dozens and dozens of cases like this where people know things they shouldn't know. And they have information they shouldn't have. Old boy believes that he has lived past lives. He's described them to me before. He has information and details that he shouldn't have. How's that possible? I'll be interested when I throw over to him to see what he has to say, to see if he talks about that tonight. Because I'd be very interested to hear about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw over to old boy, and I'm going to see what he has to say about this story, about reincarnation, and about everything that we talked about tonight. So, old boy, go ahead, brother.
And thank you, James. Yes, this is a very interesting show. We'll talk about the whole situation right now and the whole reincarnation thing down the line in about a minute or two after I get done talking about the story. I kind of believe it. Why would a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, I think it is, know that he was on an island in Barra and he lives 8-9 miles away as a little kid and knew exactly where everything was at, almost to a T. There's a couple things he didn't get right, but he wanted to be there. Why would some little 5-6-year-old kid be so obsessed with going to an island? He says he was there before and he knew his family and he knew everything and cry about it. I believe this. I have been to places where I know I've been there before and I've never been there in my life. I believe in reincarnation to a point. I believe that you come back you keep on living your lives. And what that means, and I'll explain that to you, is that you keep on coming back till you get it right, or you don't want to come back anymore. I know people are going to say this and that. I don't care what your opinion is. That's fine. This is mine. Sorry, not being so blunt, but you know how old boy is. So this is my opinion. I believe that you can come back. I believe that you just don't learn your lessons from other past lives. Like me, I have a big sense to, especially Viking time, Middle Ages time. Sorry, guys. Especially Rome, around that era, Victorian. I hate the 60s. Not the music, but I hate the time for some reason. I think it was a bad time if I lived that time. The 50s, 30s and 40s I don't care about. 1800s I don't really like. I don't know why, except the beginning. So I don't think I was around that. That's just my opinion. I know somebody's gonna say, well, old boy, you're crazy. No, old boy's not crazy. This is stuff I have. Just so you know, I go to Hollywood a lot. I feel like I've been there all my life. It's weird. There are certain places I've been, and I've been there a million times, and I still feel lost. It's just weird. Now, for this kid, their doctors, of course, are always going to doubt everything. Of course they do. And then it took a scientist to start listening to the kid, and he believes it. And I do too. I believe that no one has 100%. Nothing's 100%, but he was pretty much on T, other than like somebody dying in an accident. But I believe it. I believe his story. Why would a 5-year-old, 6, no one, even the doctor said there's no way he would be able to, they could have told him stuff, but by the T he was getting stuff in the researcher that gave it to, talked to him, I believe he's telling the truth. I believe this happens a lot. I've heard other stories of kids saying they were somebody else at a different time. I felt like I've been here numerous times. So does my wife. I believe me and James Hershey were here before a long time ago. This wasn't the first time we met. That's going to be an intro to the next show. Does things happen for reasons? Like people get killed by certain people for reasons, or soulmates are not just being with somebody. You could be a soulmate with friends, family, or it might be another dimension, guys. That's a whole nother show we'll be talking about soon, but I just wanted to throw that in there to set up the next show. I like to do the show down the line. So I believe that. I believe me and James used to do this before. And my opinion was around the Viking time. I just have that feeling. We've done this before. Once or twice. Medieval times also. I believe that there was numerous times me and James have been friends, and I even think we were foes at one time. But I think something we ended up having to fight with each other, against each other, and then something happened, and we had to actually become allies, and we changed. I believe that. I believe that with my wife, that I've been with her numerous times. This ain't the first time. I believe that we've been together numerous times. We had a coven in the dark ages at that time, and I know people are like, you're crazy, old boy. No. I've been told this by numerous people, psychics, Christian psychics, the same thing. I love that time. I love being a pagan, guys. I love my life. I love being a gypsy. It's just always been like that. I've always felt like this isn't the first time I've done this. So, and neither was my wife. So I believe this kid. I'm not going to say 100%, but I'm about 90% sure he's not lying. But I believe him. I believe he's not lying. I believe people do lie. Don't get it wrong, because people want to be on TV. They're 15 minutes of fame. But I believe this kid isn't lying. I believe this has happened to other people. I've read stories about this happening numerous times, that people thinking they came from somewhere else and they feel at home when they read books and they know they were there. And they know stuff. They'll tell people to the T, that this is the person they are. And they came back reincarnated. I've even had people read that people have reincarnated of somebody's son or daughter or father, and they'll tell them everything. And this is like a 4 or 5-year-old kid remembering stuff that their dad or mom said, or grandmother said, or a friend. I'm just throwing them all out there. it could be anything, any kind of person. So, I believe that. I believe I knew Jackie many a times. I believe I've known James numerous times. I believe we've done this other times with not just paranormal, fighting weird creatures and stuff like that. I know that sounds crazy, but we did. It's just the honor thing. See, this is where I want people to realize something. I know this is the holidays and everybody has differences. Me and James should not be friends. Not at all. We're both on different sides. I'm on the left, he's on the right, whatever you want to call it. But we get along perfectly fine. We have our issues. Everybody's not perfect. But most people, these guys should kill each other. Why? I get along with him, have the same thinking, almost the same opinions other than religion and beliefs and some politics. We have differences, but I get along with him 90% of the time. 95% of the time, we get along. I would even say 90. I'm going to go even further. At 99% of the time, we get along. Probably 1 or 2% times, we don't get along, and that's hardly ever. I've known James for 7-8 years now, and about almost 8 years now, and never had too many issues with him at all. Hardly at all, ever. Maybe a disagreement on ghosts and other people, but never really about us and shows and stuff like that. But other than that, nothing bad. So, never ever had any issues with James, except maybe, like I said, about shows or disagreements of other people who always cause problems. We've always had our share of that, being in the paranormal world and people thinking they're famous or they're somebody when they're not. We always have that, or they get too big for their britches and they instigate stuff. We've had issues with that in both sides of the groups, and probably everybody has. That just happens, especially when it becomes being on TV, or you think you know everything. We have a lot of those know-it-alls. The 90% of the time they're wrong. Or they just don't care. They don't want to believe it. Even though it's true, they don't want to believe anything because they're scared of it. They're just comfortable being in a reality where nothing exists but dying. And that's it. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but that's your opinion. You're welcome to it, guys. I'll never doubt anybody and argue with somebody. If somebody believes that way, hey, that's your belief. I'm not going to doubt you. I'm not a judgmental person. I think we all judge people, but I try not to be a hypocrite. Because my belief, I don't care what you think. Just like you shouldn't care what I think. In the end of the day, I'm going to go to bed and be who I'm going to be, just like you're going to be who you're going to be, and go to bed. No one's paying my bills, so I'm going to do what I want, just like you do the same thing. So, and that's why I said, people ask, well, how are you and James always get along? Well, this is why. We have pretty similar thoughts. We're both named James. What's weird? We're both from back east, because he's from Virginia, I'm from Pennsylvania. So we were born back east. So we must have been friends. Family must have been friends somewhere, sometime anyway. And we were probably friends at one time too. That's just my opinion, like I was saying earlier. I know people see just so people know, you see that. I know you see the flag, because I know people are asking what I am. Don't worry about it. You have your beliefs, I have mine. You know what? Whatever you know of that flag is not always 100% true. I know you taught that because that's what you're taught, but most of us don't care, and it's not exactly what you think the religion is. But just like yours, there's a lot of misconceptions. Not everybody likes everybody's religion really much. There's always going to have somebody hate you. So I'm used to it. I'm used to people hating me. People threaten me all the time, man, James. It doesn't matter. He's a Christian. I'm a pagan Satanist, whatever you want to call me. We both have issues. Not everybody believes. There's people who hate us. Trust me, we've had issues. But back to get off that subject, just so everybody knows that. But I believe this kid probably lived another past, and he died. And this is what I was going to talk about in another show one day. He died, and he probably came back because he died like maybe of a car crash. And I think that's what happened, or he drowned or something. And maybe when people only live a certain time, they come back again because they didn't have their whole life cycle. It wasn't fair. So they died earlier than they were supposed to. And then they come back as something else, but they remember everything. Kind of weird. You think about it. What do you think? Or here's another theory I have. They jump dimensions. And whatever they are in another dimension, they got reborn into this world. and they remember everything from that dimension. Maybe that's what it is. It's just dimension theory. They just remember what dimension they left and came into the new one. You know, after you die, you go to another place wherever your dreams are. That's another theory we've always had. That's another theory, think about it, guys, that I just probably thought about. I have a lot of theories, guys. I'm not stupid. You know, neither's James. You know, I'm very smart. I see things, and I'm people underestimate me. This has been said. You don't ever underestimate me. Trust me. I'll figure you out, or the situation out. But that's just how it is. And that's how I've always been. And I think James is kind of like that too, guys. But I believe that me and James knew each other in another time. And I believe that I've been here numerous times. I've probably been here about 10 times, I think. 9, give or take. My wife, same, pretty much same. I'm a little older than her, I think. But, you know, as crazy as that sounds, I know some people are like, oh, this guy's a whack job. Well, again, your opinion. I think this... my opinion's on your belief, trust me, and on whatever you believe. And you know what? That's my opinion. I don't hate anybody. I have my opinions on stuff, but I don't hate anybody. I'm not going to get in altercations because I know people were raised a certain way, and when you're raised a certain way, you're going to have a certain belief. My personal opinion is, before you say something, you should study it. Not what Hollywood says or what a religious preacher or any rabbi says. You need to look it up yourself, and not on YouTube and Facebook and social media. Actually read about the history. I do. And I'm not an expert in anybody's religion, but I know a little bit of everybody's religion. And the best I can. I don't hate anybody's beliefs, man. I don't care. I don't get it. It's crazy. But you know what? Some people don't get it. They think they can do what they want with their religion, they can get away with it, and they're wrong. Not everybody's gonna think that way, guys. Remember that. But I do believe that this is true. I believe in reincarnation to a point, or multiverse jumping. I know, how crazy that sounds. I know it sounds like a Marvel movie, sorry, but I believe it could be a possibility. Think about it, guys. When you dream, we don't know what they are. No one really knows what they are. It's a subconscious. Is it another world? Is it just we're dreaming? Is it just something we make up? But then some people keep reliving the same dream like I have. And I dream in Keller. And only like 8% of the population dreams in Keller. And somebody's, oh, I believe in... Go look it up if you don't believe me. Before you think you know what you're talking about. Go look it up. And that's fine. And if you guys, what you think about that? Do you think this is just another multiverse? We reincarnated? I know you're going to say, no, this and that. Whatever your opinion is, please be respectful on it. Like we respect yours. Leave your thoughts on what you think. I think that's what I think, guys. I think it's probably a possibility. A really big possibility this is true. The kid was very adamant to what he knows, and he remembered things. I don't doubt he's lying at all. I don't think somebody told him this too. I know somebody's going to say, oh, he probably got 5 or 6. You can be told a little bit, but you're going to mess up eventually. And I mean, they said they're not, it was like 85, 90% right. He had some, stuff that he didn't get right. Like a couple things were missing, but he almost got everything right. He knew where his house was, the beach was. He knew certain things in a crash. He didn't know what happened to one of the guys that died, and a couple other discrepancies. But other than that, he pretty much knew what was going on. He was an idiot. Why would he sit there and cry to his mom, about this? And I was reading the article and listening to his mom. And what's the mom going to do? What would you do in a situation? Like I said, write in the comments. If your family member, your kid, your mom and dad told you all this stuff, what would you say? I mean, it's adamant every day. A little 5, 6-year-old kid told you this all the time. He was from another time or another, in the 60s or 70s, I think it was, or 50s. I forget what it was. I think it was the 60s or 70s. Tell you this from 40 years ago and tells you exactly where he was at. And almost the whole thing he's saying is real and it's true. What would you guys do? I mean, they went and took him to psychologists, and they kind of figured he's right too. I mean, unless he's dreaming this. I mean, there's a possibility on that. I mean, thinking he's just dreaming this all, or maybe a ghost is telling. Maybe he's talking to somebody that's dead or something, and he's telling him to say all this. You never know. That's a possibility too. I just thought about that. Bingo, another theory. What do you guys think? That's what I think. I think it's probably he's telling the truth. I've had the same thing. That's why I'm kind of going on this. And me and James have talked about it. My wife and me talk about it all the time. There's a couple people we know we've been with or talked to, and they're a part of our lives. Some of them don't want to believe it, but they'll find out one day that they should have listened to us at one time, but they're very stubborn. And it's only one or two people, but majority of people, I tell you, they believe me. There's just one or two, they always have to find it out themselves because they're so stubborn. But hey, it is what it is. That's my opinion, guys. I hope you guys liked what I thought, and let me know what you guys think. And James, there you go, brother. And I hope everybody enjoyed this show on Parax Radio every Sunday nights at 9 Pacific, 12 Eastern, and Tuesday nights, the best of 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. I hope everybody's having a wonderful holiday coming up. Christmas, Yule, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. And if you don't celebrate anything, that's all right. Just have a good day altogether. We love you. Hope you want to check us out again on YouTube, James Hershey's YouTube page. You want merchandise? James will tell you where to go. Just so you know, there's a lot of big things coming. Big. And you'll see them soon. Next couple weeks, couple of them. One or two things coming. But a lot of big things are coming. I think 2023 is going to be a big year, especially for Staring and Tells and Old Boy and James Hershey and all the other crew. So I hope you guys all have a great holiday. Misfits, Sugar Ladies, Monster Lovers, Demon Hunters, we love you. Blessed be and have a wonderful holiday, guys. We love you.
Thank you, brother. Interesting show. Very, very interesting show. There's a lot of questions with this one that unfortunately we just don't have answers for. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes we do a show and there's no real answer to it. We don't know what we don't know. But it's very interesting. And I think this is one that is going to remain kind of a mystery. But it's one that sure is fun to speculate about. And I'm going to be very interested to look at the comment section of the YouTube video when this hits YouTube and see what everybody has to say about it. Because I got a feeling this is one that people are going to be talking about a little bit. Thank you all for hanging out with us, as always. I'm going to go ahead and give the plugs and everything tonight because I'm supposed to at the end of every show. And a lot of times I'll get to yammering on and talking and I forget. So, shameless plugs. The YouTube channel. If you're already watching it, you know exactly what it is. It's youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. because you're there. If you are there, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Hit that little bell thingy-dingy so that you know when I post. We have every episode of Staring that goes on the YouTube channel. We have every episode of Tales from the Abyss, which is our TV show that we do. That's also on the YouTube channel. We also do paranormal news on the YouTube channel. I have a couple hundred of those. That's essentially the same thing as Staring in a way, but a lot shorter. It's where I take an article, I read it to you, and I comment on it. And they're all paranormal and science and stuff like that, history stuff. That's all on the YouTube channel. There's a ton of stuff there. We're starting to put more and more videos up every day, different kinds of stuff. There's literally 1,000 or more videos on that channel. So there's plenty of stuff there to watch. It's 100% free. So please go subscribe and enjoy. Please hit the like button, all that kind of stuff while you're there. The merchandise store. The link to the merchandise store is in the description box of every single YouTube video. So all you have to do is go to the YouTube channel and click on a video and go down to the description box and there'll be a link there that will take you to the merchandise store. That's where you can buy merch. You can buy shirts and cups and mugs and stickers and towels and pillows and all kinds of stuff with the Staring logo on it and different horror themed stuff. The quality is really good. The prices are low. So enjoy. If you want to support the show, that is an amazing way to do so. Links there in the description box. We also have a channel on Stream TV that I try to keep going. Sometimes I forget to put content on it, but a lot of times there's stuff there. So if you want to go check that out, it's Stream TV. BIS Broadcasting is the name of the channel there. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for everything. You guys are are an amazing audience. We have a lot of people that listen on the radio, and we have a YouTube audience as well, which is really cool. And we have a bunch of people on Facebook that follow us there, and even on Instagram that follow us. So that's really, really neat. I would say if you're on Instagram, check out Tales from the Abyss on Instagram. And me, James Hershey Jr., and Old Boy's on there as well. You can find us and follow us on Facebook. And pretty much everywhere, I'm James Hershey Jr. or James Hershey, one of the two. So look me up and follow me or friend request me or whatever. And I'm pretty cool about it. I usually accept most people unless you're kind of nuts. You know what I mean? If you got a bunch of really, really bad stuff on there, I doubt I will. But unless you're a scammer or something like that, most likely I'll accept your friend request or your follow. And the YouTube channel is where you can always find us. Whenever you want to talk to us, just comment there on the YouTube channel. We see most of the comments. I'm going to say most instead of all, because sometimes YouTube doesn't let me know there's a comment. So unless I literally go to every single video and check all the comments to make sure there's nothing new, sometimes I don't even know. Because YouTube gives me notifications and let me know when somebody comments, but it doesn't do every single comment all the time. So if you do comment and I miss it, I apologize. You can always find me on Facebook, and you can send me a message there, and I'll be happy to respond to you there. Thank you guys for all your support, all your love. Thank you for hanging out. We greatly, greatly appreciate you. Until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.